Can you share with our audience approaches that executives have successfully taken that are out of the box, things they've done to, for example, get the attention of a recruiter that might have been, say, unorthodox or unexpected and yet so darn impactful? What other examples might cross your mind that we can share with our audience today about ways to get attention and ultimately get the right offer?
Okay. Well, let's take the recruiting one first, because we sort of touched on that. The recruiting landscape has drastically changed over the last several years, and at the executive level anyway. And just to kind of share with you a little bit about what that is. It used to be that if there was a 200 or 300K position that needs to be filled, you'd always call a headhunter. Well, you did that because the headhunter had access to networks. They had these network people that they had relationships with. And that started to go away with LinkedIn, because now everybody has access to networks. So if I sat down with a client to work on a C-level role, normally most of the time back in the late 90s, they would say, oh, we've already talked to a couple people. Here's the people we've talked to. Now they've already talked to 20 or 30 people by the time it gets to a headhunter. So headhunters are getting these roles few and farther in between at this level. And when they do get them, they're very specific about what is needed. So headhunters and recruiters don't really work on a let's see who I have basis, or hey, maybe this person that just called me, I can fit them into this role. They are built on search. They have a tool called LinkedIn Recruiter, which takes a 700 million member platform and turns it into their own personal database, and they can search and they'll find, and that's what they're hired for. So if you've heard the phrase, you can't push a string, you can only pull it, that is the hook with the recruiter. Now, if a recruiter does find you, psychologically speaking, people do want to validate their own work. So a recruiter's tendency will be to look for reasons to include you if they found you. Now, if you go to them, they're going to look for reasons to exclude you. So if a recruiter finds you and you get a conversation with that recruiter, you have a captive audience and you have the ability to make these leverage conversations that I was talking about earlier. And these leverage conversations happen all the time. That's one of the top ways people land as far as the people we work with. But as far as, searches that I've worked on in the past, like I said, I noticed a clear difference between people who have good value propositions and those that don't. And as far as being out of the box, I think what is being extremely overlooked by most people who enter the job search and is extremely successful with people who use it is to position yourself as a thought leader. So just like today, we are doing masterclass. There are opportunities upon opportunities that are springing up now for doing a webinar. I've always had very good success with people landing that get speaking engagement, because if you were to go to a networking event and you're to circulate yourself and hand out a few business cards and make a few conversations, you don't really get much chance to position yourself as a subject matter expert. But if you're the speaker, you have a line of people standing up, getting ready to talk to you. So now that all of this is being done virtually, and every company is seeing this as an opportunity to gain themselves an audience, getting into these opportunities where you're actually a speaker and talking about your particular area of expertise is not only positions yourself well with the audience that sees you. Because I talk to HR people all the time, and I ask them, I say, well, how did you hire your last executive? And they say, well, we had this opening and we thought, wouldn't it be great if we could get so-and-so? We saw him speak at a conference, and they get the call because they've already positioned themselves as a subject matter expert. And so networking yourself into those opportunities not only gets you the opportunity to be exposed to that audience, but then one of the reasons that they're doing this webinar is to be able to promote it on social media and promote this content on social media. And then your content gets promoted on social media, yes, on that 700 million member platform called LinkedIn, which I've had people tell me, I feel like I never even had to do a job search. I feel like I just turned on a button and there were people standing in line to talk to me. One particular search I did a couple of years ago, I had reached out to somebody that I found on LinkedIn. And he said, I'm not really the right person for that job, but, you should call this guy. And so I looked up his name, typed him on LinkedIn, and I said, oh, wow, you're right. And when I called him up, I told him who referred him, and he said, well, I don't really know who that is, but sure, no problem. And when I called the first guy back and I said, look, thank you for that wonderful referral because it was a placement, but he didn't even know who you are. And he said, oh, no, he wouldn't know who I was. I saw him speak at a conference like 5 years ago, and I've been following him on LinkedIn ever since. So I think it's not such a hard thing. It's an easier thing to network for than it is to say, hey, do you know of any job postings? To say, sure, I'd love to be a guest speaker on this event that you're doing, this virtual event that you're having. And that is if you don't know how to position yourself to get in the door for those types of things, give us a call. We're coaching people on that all the time.